Okay, so big welcome everyone to the first of a monthly call series that we're going to roll out in Women to Wealth alongside Global Wealth with our cowboy Warren. We would not want you any other way. So thank you for showing up and leading the way with your fashion always.
What can I say?
This call, I mean, I think it's going to be really powerful every single month. And the reason behind it and the intention of it is that as women to be able to come together, to be able to talk about, hey, what has happened in the world, but what actually matters in your world. Because I think we can all agree the world is noisy and the noise isn't going to quieten down. Our job is to work out what noise we need to dial down and then what do we need to dial up based on what's important to us, based on what matters. And there's, I was reading an article the other day and it was just talking about the world that we're living in. And it summed it up in one sentence that sticks to me. And he shared that we are in a losing battle. When it comes to algorithms, notifications, headlines, hooks, consumption. Why? Because there are at least 1,000 people, or maybe AI, or maybe robots behind all those headlines and hooks and the noise, and it is their job to absorb our attention. So it's us versus that. We're up against a losing battle if we just live life without questioning it, live in the current systems without questioning it, live in the noise without pulling ourselves out of it. And so this call every month is not about denying that there are catastrophes in the world and there are urgent matters and there are things that definitely matter and needs change. But it's also not about drowning in it. And so if we don't pull ourselves up and zoom out, and this is what this call is about. How do we take a zoom out? What are the most common things being talked about for the month? But then how do we decide what is important, what deserves our attention, and what do we do with that information practically as a sovereign woman? Because again, like I said, it's not to deny, it's not to avoid, it's not to be naive and ignorant to the world, but it is our job as a sovereign woman not to drown in it. And, when we get really emotionally charged and emotionally involved in things, we are going to create more of that in our life. And remember, that is what the world is designed for, is to get us as a consumer, emotionally charged in everything. And so this conversation, coming together, and we'll bring different guest speakers in as well, but we'll pick a couple of topics that we can, let's just say, shoot the shit on and get some clarity around. And then we're going to pull ourselves out and go, what do we do with this information practically? And where do we focus our time? So to kick us off, Jen, Warren, either of you may want to jump into this, but I thought that we could talk about two of the really common things happening this month. And again, every month will be a different conversation. But these are really just things that are going on in the world. One is the Epstein files. I thought, okay, that's a big conversation right now. It is loud, it is noisy. And then there is hate speech and free speech laws. I would love to know, just to kind of open it up broadly, and then let's focus in on how we handle these things. What is your take on this, and what is the impact of this? What does it mean for us? Sorry, just make sure you're muting yourself if you're jumping on.
No, that was me. I was just trying to see if my computer would come in again, and it didn't. But anyway, I'll start on this hate speech laws. Look, something that I was saying to someone the other day, and I always like to start with the wisdom of the ancients. And one of the things that happens, it's what I call present day bias. And I'll start with a fairly obvious example. It's like the other day I was reading a Facebook post. I'm a bit of a cricket fan and used to play it a lot. And they were talking about the greatest Australian cricket team of all time. And I just started to laugh when I read it, because literally some of the greatest players in history weren't even there. And they were just chucking in current players. And it's a similar issue I have in the NBA, trying to debate with my sons, which I don't even bother now, who try to argue with me, but say LeBron James is the greatest basketball player that's ever played NBA. And I'm like, you just can't say that if you actually saw Jordan. And I said, I don't know anyone who did. The point I'm making is that history so many of what we see today has happened before. It will happen again. It will end, and things like that. Like when COVID happened, I remember saying to people at the time, "Are you aware?" But in 1918 and in 1976, there were vaccine mandates that went for around about 6 months, with the Spanish flu in 1918 and the swine flu in 1976, and most people didn't know that. I said in the bubonic plague, there was a very, 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 very long lockdown back about 700 years ago. So the point I'm saying is that it's not like suddenly the whole world is doing something magic that's never happened before. And what I like what King Solomon says. He goes, don't get so too distressed when you see corruption in high places, this kind of stuff. He says this is the kind of thing that continues to happen and will keep happening as power keeps basically trying to, get what it's getting. So the point I'm saying is that, we've had a really good life in Australia, really, relatively speaking, compared to history. There was a time 2,000 years ago, if you spoke out, you would get nailed to a cross and literally crucified, as Jesus found out. 2,200 years ago, if you're in Syria and you spoke out against the system, you would be boiled in oil and watch your family put in that as well. Even as recently as 10, 20 years ago in Mozambique and Somalia and places like that, you'd be put in a tyre, set on fire, and oil would burn and you'd go. So overall, Australia, we've kind of been spoiled a bit in a way in America, in that we've had as strange as it might sound, we've had an unusually good level of freedom. We've lived in a government with somehow, and due mainly because of the evils of 500 years ago, where we had the Dark Ages, and most of you would probably have been at some stage on a barbecue by now if you lived in the Dark Ages, because in the Dark Ages, if you were a herbalist or if you were anything different to the system, it was presumed you were a witch. And it's one of my concerns. I said to someone at the moment is, I said, COVID, we had like a vaccine witch hunt, and then of course Epstein files is now a pedo witch hunt, and anyone is almost presumed to be a pedo unless assumed otherwise. I mean, the hate speech laws is just another example of where we go to extreme solutions rather than go, what is the real thing here? And it's so easy to focus on distractions and look at it from another way. Let's just say that you're a really happy person, and you're prosperous, your life is working, you've got a great marriage. Obviously Nicole and Jen would probably say they have been moments, but I spent time with Jen especially, and Jono, her husband, and you can see they've got a pretty great marriage. You can see overall prosperous. So I noticed with someone like Jen, she's very aware about it, for example. She's very passionate about doing what's right. She will speak out about it and do what she can to do it, but won't let it so consume her life that she stops focusing on other things and stuff like that. So it doesn't mean you avoid evil. And, when bad laws come in, I think half the reason we're in a mess in Australia now and in parts of the world, we just let things get too far. It's like if you continue to eat badly and not train and your body starts to fall apart, as I've learnt the hard way, and then you kind of, rather than take quick action, you just avoid it and you just kind of distract yourself by getting on your phone and you scroll for hours, and then of course a great way to distract yourself is to get worked up with the Epstein files, to find a bit of a dopamine hit, or to go into hate speech laws and get angry about that. This has kind of been building for a while, and the fact is, there's no question it's an extreme overreaction. And so one of the things that's, as I see it now, is whether we like it or not, the laws are in, which does change the game quite significantly, very significantly. Like in Australia, for example, free speech is now genuinely dangerous. You could actually get targeted or prosecuted. So you've got to decide, is that my path, or am I better off to find a different way of bringing awareness? The main thing is to be aware about them. But for example, for me, it's not going to make me suddenly live in fear and go and hide or get angry and run out and protest. What I am doing now is I've realised, well, look, my days of speaking out heavily on social media the way I did, I've got to be a bit mindful now, and I've got to be sure, if I do say certain things, am I willing to take what comes of it? Or if I'm not, I'm like, okay, do I still want to live in Australia? Or if I do live here, do I just simply want to live in Australia like I'm living if I was in Dubai? And no, but if I lived in Dubai, I wouldn't get up and say that Mohammed's, a horrible name about him. So in other words, it's learning to live with the environment you're at and then you can focus on and enjoy life. And I like what a billionaire said to me, a friend of mine. He said, look, he goes, you want to do what you can to protect your future. You want to set up your structures to make sure your assets are safe. You want to have money onshore and offshore if you can. You want to do everything you can. You want to have your various insurances. And once it's done, you know what you do next? And I was like, what? He goes, you just get on with life. If you're a mother, become an amazing mother. If you're a plumber or electrician, go out and serve and do even better than you did before. If you do podcasts and wear cowboy hats and other stuff, then get out and just do that and, you know, and give it your heart and soul. If you like to dance and sing or do pole dancing, not that I know anyone like that, you just get out and pole dance, sing and do things like that. If you've got a new baby like Nicole, you make sure that you give your baby the best and be an amazing mother and give your work the best. So in other words, you don't neglect your fundamental responsibilities because then you lose your joy. That doesn't mean that you're kind of not aware about it, but what's the point really of getting into long, angry witch hunt debates? You know, it's just a distraction, and all it does is when you look back, you realise that very legitimate people have been caught up in it, lost their livelihood and futures because of a witch hunt. You know, there's going to be, unfortunately, many probably perfectly decent men who are going to end up being, you know, effectively branded by the mob as pedophiles when they really aren't, you know. This is why we had innocent until proven guilty. This is why we had that. This is why, because we saw in the Dark Ages the evils of mob rule and church rule. The trial by jury, the rights of free speech came in the 1600s to basically protect from the evils of what happened in the Middle Ages. And now we're kind of reversing it all back because we've forgotten the lessons and go, well, you know, we want to punish these people. And it's easy for us to say these hate speech laws are horrible and how dare they, but we've also got to take a good look at ourselves and ask ourselves, for example, are we doing the same thing? And I see many decent people getting up and saying, oh, no, that person's a pedophile. That person's saying that person needs to be shut down. Well, no, the whole nature of democracy is that people say stuff that we don't like them saying. Like, my dad used to drive me mad with his socialist beliefs. I just about wanted to scream at him and tell him he was a moron, and sometimes I did. And he would do the same with me, but afterwards we would shake hands, laugh, and watch football. That's free speech. Free speech means you get pissed off, get frustrated. You may not agree with someone, but you accept what they believe because it's part of free speech. The moment that we say, no, we have to have a uniform belief, we're back in the Dark Ages. And unfortunately, the hate speech is going that way. And in a way, it kind of represents, I think, where we've gone as a world, where we're trying to uniformly just move everything into one thing. And it's all of us. Like, I'm a Trump supporter, or I'm a left supporter, or I'm a this. Well, why be any of that? You know, it'd be like Kung Fu Panda. If you've seen Kung Fu Panda 3, you want to be all these things. You know, you want to be the business owner, the mother, the father, the dancer, the runner. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah. So, Warren, just to kind of paraphrase what you've explained there is basically there's always shit going on in the world if we look at any time in history, right?
Yep.
And often the shit that's going on is worse than what we're seeing at the moment, even though a lot of the stuff that we're seeing at the moment seems absolutely terrible. A lot of it is just information coming out. It's been happening all this time and we've been happily living our days. And so I want to ask you specifically about a couple of things, but I just wanted to kind of paraphrase. So you set the scene saying, yep, there's all the stuff like there's this war, there's that war, there's you know, what's happening in markets, there's the finance world, there's the global economy, specifically what we're going to focus on in this call is like the Epstein files, there's the whatever it is that we want to talk about, the hate speech laws, which can impact us and do impact our world. But I think what you're saying is we really need to understand, like, who am I in this, and which hill do I want to take a stand on? Do I want to take a stand? Because I can't stand on all of these hills. I can't speak out about everything. I can't be at organising protest marches or even just spending time and energy and focus on everything. Like, we can't we can't know enough about what's happening in the war in Ukraine, and then the war in, is there going to be a war in Iran, and the Israel situation, and then all the Epstein files, and who did this and who didn't do this, and that person's, and then what's happening with the hate speech laws? Are they going to go back 4 years and pull everything that we've ever said on social media, and they're going to lock us up? But we have to go, well, what is the life that I want to live? And what am I going to take a stand about? Where am I going to say, no, I won't accept anymore? Because as you also said, the reason that we are facing some of these ridiculous laws is because not enough people have stood up and made any noise. And so there is this need for us to decide, what standard of life do we want to have? And this goes back to what we teach in Women to Wealth, which is, first thing to do is get clear. What life do I want to live? Exactly what do I want to do? Where do I want to live? How do I want to feel in my life? And then if we see something encroaching on that, whether it's just noise from the media or noise on social media or whatever, and that's making me feel anxious, and then we can go, remember, well, no, calm and peace are the things I wanted to feel. So if I'm getting in the doom scroll hole every day, and I feel my cortisol levels going up, then I've got to do something about that, right? Because that noise, as Nick said, is never going to go anywhere. That is it's only going to get worse. So many women I know don't have their notifications turned off on their phone. There's little things we can do that make massive difference. I don't have any notifications on my phone at all turned on. So I go, there's all the different things. So then it's consider when I decide. So Nick and I decided we can't stop pedophiles, right? But we can help free children. So it's how? So we can rave on about all the pedophiles and all the Epsteins and all the this and all of that, and we can post on social, but what's it really doing? It's just another voice in the madness. And so I have this debate with myself every day. I need to speak out. What if people don't know about this? People actually don't know that there are that many pedophiles in the world. When we lived in England a few years ago, we got pulled over on the way to the airport by the police, and they were checking everyone's cars, and they were doing a blitz because 100,000 kids were missing out of that airport that we were going to every single year. And I have friends going, oh, there's not that many kids going missing. I'll just get everyone to check that they're muted. I think I found that one. We can't be in denial either. And so it's just what's that thing? And then if I'm going to care about something, is it within my locus of control? So can I make a difference? Is me posting, having a rant about something I don't really understand because I saw someone else did is that really going to change anything? Or can I go and, I don't know, raise some money and donate it to an organization that frees kids? Is it what can I do that actually moves the needle? So it's what sort of life do I want to live? Then what can I do that actually moves the needle? And keeping my goals of how I want to design my ideal life in mind. And my ideal life involves a safe space for kids to walk around. So this is a hill I do have to stand on. I can't take my last breath on the pillow and know I didn't fight this fight, because I don't want my kids and their kids being terrified of being kidnapped or, being sold or being this is a fight I have to fight. And other people, not so much. It's, again, we get to choose that design and then coming up with a plan that we stick to. So my plan is I don't want to listen to the noise on social. So part of the plan is 15 minutes a day, absolute max is allowed to scroll. And be disciplined about that plan, just as as one example. So this call is really a reminder that we are in charge. You each have all the power And I think sometimes we look at all this shit going on in the world and we feel so powerless. And the worst thing that can happen to a human is to lose hope. Is to lose hope for the ability to create a better future. And there is no reason to lose hope. There is so much. We have so much, but we have to take our power back, and we have to remember that we really get to choose our inputs, what goes in our eyes, what goes in our ears, and what goes in our mouth. And those three things, those inputs, are the only things that create our results, that create our outputs. That's just mathematical and logical sense. So, Warren, I really wanted to ask you about these hate speech laws, because they really do impact our freedom. And again, ladies, this goes back to understanding ourselves so well so we know what our highest values are. So Nick and I, for example, probably our highest value for both of us is freedom. So when COVID came and they started making ridiculous, stupid, illogical rules, we left the country. That's how high we value our freedom. Like, no, we're not hanging around here. So it's one thing to say we value freedom. It's another thing to actually act like we value freedom. It's like people say that, oh yeah, I really care about my health, but they don't act like they care about their health, right? So I want to pick your brains, Warren, about these hate speech laws and what do you think they really mean, and like really what are the implications, because they really tap on my highest value of freedom.
Look, this is one of these things, like, trying to best way. I always like to use metaphors, Jen, as you probably know. It's like you discover you've got a very serious illness, like and you kind of just know it because you've got severe pain in unusual places and things like that and stuff like that. And eventually you realize that you're actually on the verge of a heart attack or getting cancer or whatever else. And that moment you could sit there in denial, or you could act and move quickly and do what you need to do. So the problem with hate speech laws is that their way of weaponizing free speech against political enemies. It's what they've always been. Like in the Dark Ages, if you're on the right side of the ledger, then great. If you're a Catholic Church, like yay person, and I don't like witches, oh yeah, the Dark Ages would have been awesome, because you can kind of get on with life, you get welcomed through society. Every now and again when you're bored, you watch a herbalist witch get burnt and you celebrate and then get on with life. And so those things work really well in that. And then, of course, and we see a classic example of the modern day of what's happened in America. Like, we see Trump get in 2016 and try and do what he did. He then gets removed in that, like, absurd thing or whatever happened. The next minute, you've got Biden and Harris, and they completely weaponize everything against anyone who's remotely anti-vax or anti-this or whatever. And if you just simply, people are getting prosecuted in jail for saying that a woman is someone who has, basically is born biologically. Like J.K. Rowling got absolutely hammered about it just for simply saying that, no, we don't want boys going into girls' bathrooms, by identifying their that. And that was how absurd it actually got. So, and then, of course, that created one level of division. And then Trump gets in, and then now it's swung foot. Now it's like, oh, no, now it's gone the opposite. And which isn't really what you want. Like, the whole purpose of free speech is to create a law and system that lets people be themselves within reason. So if I'm, kidnapping girls, then I should be severely dealt with, because that's a life, liberty, property. If I'm killing people just because I'm in a bad mood. So the reason that laws are put in place is to stop humans doing really bad shit to each other. That's the purpose of law, and to stop it getting out of control. Because otherwise, imagine a society which was free for all. I kind of I go out to the pub and someone hurts me because I see them kiss my girlfriend, so I get a knife and kill them. And then next minute someone does. I mean, humanity once was like that for a while, like a free for all. Or I don't like that person, so I'm going to go get my band of vigilantes and go and get them. And we've kind of decided, well, we don't really want that, and we don't want ISIS terrorists walking in and just doing what they want to do and let a free-for-all. So we go, how do we stop a free-for-all? Okay, so we're going to stop laws around people killing each other unless it's justified. And we're going to protect people's liberty. You can't just kidnap girls and coerce them into doing stuff, just because as a man you kind of want your thing. And there are societies that were once like that and still are today. You can't just I can't just walk up, over Queensland, New South Wales, go, I actually like Jen's house better than mine. And I just walk in with a gun, hold up Jen and Jono, kick them out and take over their house. We go, no. So we kind of have laws for good reasons and that kind of stuff. And then as time goes on, we go, okay, well, let's just add this on, because we think if we can stop deaths on the roads and we have a penalty for killing someone on the road, you go, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. And then you go, well, okay, well, let's be preventative now, and we will stop. And if anyone basically is driving over a certain speed limit, then they're probably a criminal anyway, and they'll hurt someone. And you go, okay, well, that's probably true. And now we're going to bring an AI camera. So if you're seen drinking a cup of coffee and, we don't like that. And if you've got a Nazi symbol, or if you've got a symbol saying, I love Donald Trump, then that shows that potentially, according to our psychological profile, and if you're white male, you're dangerous, we can go after you. So the biggest problem with the hate speech laws is effectively a way of weaponizing. So whoever's in power can go after the other. And that's kind of what we've created now. So right now, all of us, unfortunately, are probably on the other side, of that, where we're in the kind of side that are going to be targeted or weaponized. Now, who knows if Pauline Hanson gets in, then in all likelihood the other side will become it, and then we'll all be the ones yelling for a witch hunt and let's get these people and let's make them accountable and all that kind of stuff. So I hate these laws. I literally hate them. I hate them so much. They're hate speech laws, and I hate them because the problem with that is it's all relative. Like, what's hate speech? What is it? Like, I said I don't like Muslims. Okay, yeah, no, you're hate speech. I said, well, I don't think Christianity is much good, and it's a misogynistic religion because it is. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. We think so too. In other words, power groups start to run society. And even though to some level we can't avoid that in the parliament, it does have a limitation, whereas right now, effectively, it means now power groups will run. Whoever can get the most power, the most economic control will run society. So Australia's once it starts passing laws like that, we've got a UK situation where it doesn't mean you'll get targeted, but now you're in a world where previously, if you spoke out, you would just be people criticising and saying, what a stupid opinion, you stupid anti-vaxxer and you're bloody moron. I mean, and that hurts, but it's very different to write, okay, well, now we're prosecuting you because you got on social media and said that, and then we think that you're a bad person. And then as Martin Luther King's era shows, most people, through fear of their own safety and security and family, go, well, yeah, no, it's good, we agree. Or if you don't speed on the roads, then you won't get in trouble. Or, well, if you don't hold your phone when you're driving, you won't get in trouble. Or just don't drink coffee and don't have a Donald Trump hat. And before you know it, your parasympathetic nervous system is on constant hypervigilance to basically not to break laws. And that's kind of, and become a very tense, unhappy society. That's where Australia's becoming, a tense, unhappy society, where by and large people, there's so much restriction. So its question is, can I find a way to coexist in that? Maybe go and live in the regional areas. Do I actually think about moving overseas? Or do I suck it up for the sake of the family, but realise that I'm living in a country where I'm really going to have to live a very different life or whatever else? So I don't like these laws at all. I hate these laws. They're horrible.
Yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it, Warren? And I know these are big conversations, but preparation is everything. So when Nick and I left and went to live in Croatia during COVID, so many people said, I wish I could do that, but I can't because, whatever reason. But the thing is, I know, because I think about this, when I see the trajectory, and this is what the information we need to glean from watching what's going on in the world is really, what does this mean for us and the way that we have decided we want to live our life? There are some countries I would never live in because of their culture, which is created by their laws. Like, I don't want to cover up my body and only have my eyes showing. I don't want to bring my daughter up in a country where I'm only allowed to, as a woman, have only my eyes ever showing. That is not the life that I would choose, because I know a different life. And so when I see the way that the country I want to live in, when I see that changing and maybe I have to ask, is it going to change to the point that there's a standard that I won't tolerate anymore? And for me, one of them is, if the government were to bring back conscription. I've got kids that are 12 and 16. Like, I will leave the country I will not have my children go to fight some rich dude's war. That's completely unnecessary. I will not. I know that. Therefore, when I see these hate speech laws, when I see all of these laws, like it's law after law that they're bringing in right now, right? We see the writing on the wall. I know I need to prepare to leave. Doesn't mean I want to leave. It doesn't mean I'm going to leave, but I need to set up my life in such a way that I can leave if they bring in conscription, right? And this is what people aren't doing. The writing's been on the wall since COVID, right? Very clearly. A lot of people would say before COVID, but it's been so clearly. And this is why we teach how to become sovereign, because if you're tied to a job, if you're tied to a geographical location because your business is bricks and mortar, you can't just or you don't have a financial runway, a buffer zone where you can, you've got a couple of years of income that you can live on should you need to up and leave, then you're not sovereign and you're trapped in a system that is changing the rules. And that's why we created Women to Wealth and we give it away. People pay to access the information, but we give all of the money to free a girl. It's this beautiful flywheel, right? So that we can free little girls that are trapped and being sexually exploited. But you've got to start now, because when it's like when COVID came, people said, "Oh, I just wish I could leave like you did." But I spent the 5 years before setting myself up so that I could. So what we're saying is, look at what's happening, but ask, how does this apply to me? Make sense of it. Because what I see so many women doing is getting together for lunch and a glass of wine and saying, "Oh my gosh, did you see Oprah? Oh my gosh, I think Oprah's involved. Oh, no, couldn't be Oprah. Oh my, well, I mean, really, I went to see Oprah last weekend and this is, I would never have thought, I thought it was Oprah all along." It's that level of conversation. That's not the level of conversation you want to have about what's going on in the world, right?
Oh, look, I just have to interrupt you there, because what you're saying is my deepest heart and highest value. I want to tell you a story that actually happened to a good friend of mine and my sister. And some of you live in WA may have heard of him, a guy called Lloyd Rainey, probably the most famous case, murder case we've had in the last 20 years. Now, Lloyd is a friend of ours, one of our clients. And what happened was he was a brilliant lawyer, a prosecutor. His wife was killed and murdered in Kings Park unexpectedly. And it was a horrible situation. Next minute, they're accusing him and they're prosecuting him, and the police came out and said, "We have named Lloyd as a primary suspect." And of course, the whole thing just went, like, everyone was talking about it, like it's obvious he did it and all that. Now, for those who know Lloyd, the thing was there were like 5 obviously contradictory evidence, and fortunately with Lloyd, he was such a good planner and such a clever guy and ropeable about it, and had so much support because he was so well loved within the legal community. My sister and many others joined forces. They found genuine proof the police had planted evidence tangibly, but if he planted evidence, they had deliberately done. And those who knew Lloyd knew that Lloyd was the most meticulous person, and supposedly he killed him, left his calling card literally next to the body, and left his car parked there right in front of a street camera. Now, so to the point where it was so absurd that the judge actually said, "This is the most disgraceful case I've seen in a long time," he said to the police. "Some of you guys should be there," because it was uncontrovertible proof that Lloyd was innocent, like uncontrovertible proof he didn't do it. But what was the result of it? His children were bullied in school severely about it. Like, "Oh, your dad's this." He he got basically, he couldn't get a job. The legal profession then shut him out and said, we don't consider you a good character. He lost his income overnight. He lost his credibility in society. And still to this day, he's gradually rebuilt his life and things like that. Now, there was no question that the guy was absolutely innocent. It wasn't even a question. And still, there was like this spectre. And I remember a little bit of a funny interlude and all of that kind of stuff to show you how strongly I feel about this and why we really do. If we believe in free speech, we've got to remember that let's just get on with our life. And like Jen said, let's target the real perpetrators, not the ones that we think may have happened, because you could be affecting someone's livelihood, you know, and their kids and their family. And I had a situation where I was at a business dinner. And Jen and Nicole, you know me, so you could probably imagine me doing this. But literally, a whole lot of these guys, who I was part of a business networking, all started talking about the Lloyd Rainey case. There's about 12 of them. And nearly all of them saying, "Oh, look, there's no question he did it. The clever little bugger, you know, he just got away with it." And I literally lost the plot, like in the middle of a public restaurant in Northbridge. I got up and I actually yelled, "Stop, everyone! Stop the conversation now!" And everyone just jumped, like, "What? What?" And I just said, "Okay, let me tell you the facts. If any of you read the case," and I read through the whole thing. By the end, they were all looking very humble pie. And to their credit, they sincerely apologised, but it said, "Your conversation every day, you're destroying a man's life and his kids." I said, "You look at it. There was 100% uncontrovertible proof that the evidence was planted. Cops got fired. Cops got prosecuted as a result of that case. He got a record compensation payment of $2.4 million in that situation." So the point I'm saying is that I love what Jen said, because, look, if someone is genuinely guilty of doing sex trafficking, pedophiling and coercing underage girls, they should have more than the book thrown at them. I mean, I think we all would agree horrific things should be done to these people, you know. But many people are being caught up in this who aren't necessarily doing it, you know, and we've got to always preserve the rule of law and get on with our lives and not speculate on people's lives.
But also, Warren, we're getting caught up on what's nothing more than gossip, right? Reading all the crap that's on social media, it's just all gossip. It's a form of gossip, and engaging in it and taking a stand about, you know, oh, I stand with this or I stand with that. In some cases, we don't have enough information to stand with anything. We don't have enough information. We don't really know. And so many, it's just gossip. And gossip, what is gossip? What is the benefit of gossip? There is none. It's just a form of distraction. It's what we do when we don't have the discipline to do the work that we know we need to do today that really matters, right?
Yeah.
And that's all that's really going on. So
That's good.
I think where's Nick? Nick, do you want to
Yeah, can I just suggest a couple of things? I've just been writing some notes, and I'd love for you guys to all write down these questions, which will help with this, or my hope is that it will help.
I'm still mute myself for a sec, guys.
All good, one.
All good. Okay, big overarching question. What actually deserves my attention? Put that one on repeat this week. What actually deserves my attention? When the week ends, put it on repeat for another week until it becomes a default question in your mind. Because remember, there's so much, there's a lot outside of us, which is really harvesting all of our attention, the drama, the gossip that you're talking about, Jen, the headlines. And it's not to say that it doesn't exist. It's not to say that we shouldn't do our part, but we've got to work out how do we position ourselves? Like, what can we actually do about it? So the powerful question is, what actually deserves my attention? Then the second thing is really those things that do deserve your attention. How can you help, and can you even change it? So this is when you were talking about, Jen, locus of control, which in other words is this in my zone of control? Think of it that way. Is this in my zone of control? So there's things that we can care about in the world, but I agree, and I think we all can, let me know in the comment section, that I don't have, one, the lifespan of time. I don't have the capacity in energy, and I also don't have the skills and influence to change everything that I might care about. So we have to choose very carefully, what do we care about most, and answer the question, can I change this? Can I help this? Now, if we can, then the drop down question, so to speak, to that is, well, how? Like, what are those actions? And this is where, Jen, you were saying, let me piece this together. When you've got clarity around what's most important to you and your highest values in the life that you want to build, because ultimately we don't want to sit and talk about drama and the next headline. I want to create a life that's joyful. I want to look at my little newborn and just think, oh my God, like he's the best thing in my world. And there is so much joy and there is so much ecstasy in life and there is so much opportunity that all this other stuff is blinding us to. But we get to choose. So we have to know what deserves my attention. And you can't know what deserves your attention. Cheryl, if you can just that would.
Oh, nothing.
Someone mute Cheryl. That would be great. Perfect. Now, once we have that clarity, only then can we create our standards. So the standard Jen and I had around the clarity of freedom is the life that we want to live. Freedom is the highest value. Well, there were certain standards. So once those standards were imposed upon, once certain freedoms were taken away, guess what? An exit criteria was hit. So all of us may have different exit criteria. That could be from your job. That could be from your country, like it was for us. That could be from your relationship, but it's yours. Just like mine is mine. So it's being really clear on that, because then we go, right, now what's the plan? Now what's the plan that I actually put in place? And this is, the exit criteria is something that we teach in the Unbound Blueprint. You have to get clarity on what that is. Just like all of us have to get clarity on what is going to be the most joyful life for me. What it is for me is different to Annika. What it is for me is different to Anna. What it is for me is different to Sandy. And that's a beautiful thing. So once I have clarity on that, step 1, awareness and clarity. Step 2, what deserves my attention? And just keep asking that this week. What actually deserves my attention? Then locus of control, which is this in my zone of control? A lot of people spend time on shit that they can't change. Or to what you're both saying, Jen and Warren, would you agree a lot of people spend time doing things that won't change it? So I just wrote down a list of things in my notes then about what's in the focus of my control. I can raise a really empowered child. I get to control that. I can build assets. I can spend time doing that. I can create optionality in my life. What does that look like? Okay. 4 years ago, we left the country. That's optionality. I've had an income taken away from me before. Has anyone else? When I had one taken away, I just turned up the dial of another. That's optionality. I've just had a newborn. I don't want to prescribe to the path of however many vaccines they want to give my little baby from day one. And if I don't, guess what? I don't get certain funding. I don't care. I have options. I don't need to. Every woman, every mother deserves that optionality. I can strengthen a community. That's another thing that I wrote down. Or be part of a strong community and add my bit to that. And I absolutely can design life very, very deliberately, which is what I know, we're about at Women to Wealth. I know, Warren, that's what Global Wealth Club is about. These are things that are in my zone of control. So it's taking all of this and breaking it down, because, the more powerful question that we ask, the better answer that we get. We just need some time. And I think this call has been so great. I mean, I'm grateful for this conversation because it helps us zoom out and acknowledge, not deny everything that's going on, but not just drown in it, not just live in it. Like, I want to go live my life. I want to live a life that's meaningful, that's joyful, and we can. But these are the things that we have to step back and we have to ask these questions. We have to prepare. We have to have a plan. I think waiting for the world to just get better, waiting for the world to change, waiting for someone to come save us, that doesn't happen, right? That doesn't happen. So is there anything, I'd just love to ask both of you, when we think about, like, if the point of our life is to live on purpose, is to live in joy, like have a joyful, meaningful life, what can we practically do from here? If there's anything that either of you would love to just kind of sum up with or give some direction on, that'd be awesome.
For me, what you just said was brilliant, Nicole. It's things that you really honestly can control. And there's some things, like one is our reaction to the whole thing. And look, the problem is, I know 20 years ago, the statistics showed that 35% of women have had some kind of rape, sexual abuse, or trauma around sex. And that's only what's been reported. Now, that's horrific. But can you imagine spending your whole life focusing on that, trying to fix everyone? You just can't, It's like you can't fix everyone's poverty. What you can do, though, is create something that gives people the opportunity to step beyond their trauma, Like, I would love to save my loved ones from various things. I wish I'd been saved from experiencing certain things. But for whatever reason, when we come into our human incarnation, we choose, we seem to, different ones of us have different lots. Some of us just live a charmed life. Some of us, things don't go as well. Some things go particularly not as well, And it's a bit like getting cards. You can only work with the cards you're dealt with, by the dealer, and do the best you can with them. So then always seek to improve your lot. So firstly is your reaction. Number two is, like, I love what Nicole and what Jen said. Like, you can sort out your structures. You can make sure that you've got some financial stability. If you've got debts that you've been building up to distract yourself, you could focus on maybe eliminating your debt and getting yourself debt free. If you don't have structures in place to protect your wealth and make it harder to get, I like to give a real life story that happened to me. It was a huge shock for me in the last few weeks. I've had two unexpected, events. One of them was my e-bike got stolen from my garage, which shocked me quite greatly. It was like I had a really good lock and they literally cut through it with an angle grinder. And I had a bit of a misery, woe is me, and the world has sucked and I hate these people. And after 2 days, I thought, well, being a victim isn't going to help anything. And I can thank AI and ChatGPT. I actually put the whole thing in and asked it to give me a metaphysical breakdown, energetic lessons, and looking at Louise Hay, looking at all the great spiritual teachers, and it pretty much told me maybe the underlying message for you is you need to enhance your protection for the next level of life. And I stopped and go, oh my God, that is so accurate. So I went down to the bike shop and they said, actually, yeah, like the new breed of thieves can break through them easy, but there is a lock that they'll never get through. So I went and got this anti-angle grinder lock. It looks like Fort Knox. And when I put my bike on it, I've enhanced my protection. I end up getting a much better e-bike. I've got special GPS air tags put onto it now to track it, everything. And that's made me now ask of my own business affairs, how can I secure my protection a little bit better? I lost my license for 6 months last year. And so now, since I've got it back, I'm like, okay, well, let's just accept that in Australia, I'm living in a crazy system rather than being pissed off and bitter about it, and just start to drive a little bit more within the rules and maybe see it as a chance for me to be less on my phone when I'm driving. So, yeah, I know Jen's smiling, but yeah, so I'm actually driving more sensibly now. I'm aware of my speed. I've kind of got a new e-bike that's even better. It's got a better battery power. I'm securing my company funds a bit better. I've gone right through improving our company procedures because realised there was too much leakage in the way things are being operated. I've been going over my offshore protection strategy and making sure it's solid. So, yeah, I've taken it as a bit of a lesson. So the point is, do what you can do. Like, really get your finances in good shape, as best as you can do it, It doesn't matter if you don't have like $1 million, but you've only got X. Look after what you've got well. Like, make sure you've got it managed. Make sure you've got a good budget. Make sure you've got a good structure. Make sure you've got all that sorted out. In terms of the evils going on in the world, you might think, you know what, all I've got the energy for right now is I'll put some money and donate to help people do it. And that's just important. Like if Jen and Nicole, which I know they're doing, are doing more philanthropic work to help free girls in a situation, you go, you know what? I don't have the time or energy to do that, but I believe in the cause. I'm going to put some funding in to help these guys do it. And really, they're just as important. Everyone has their part to play because Jen and Nicole can't do a lot without funds, So do what you can do.
I think what you're describing there, Warren, is really intentionality. So,
Yeah.
you are intentional about how you protect your e-bike. You're intentional about how you set up your financial situation so
Yeah.
that it can't be cracked, it can't be tapped into. And I think people think, oh, some people just got lucky and they just knew this stuff. It's like, no, we all have to learn how to do it, and we all have to. Everything has to be intentional. When Nick started the call, she talked about 1,000 people are behind every ad on every social media platform, and their job is to get your attention. Their job is to suck you down their drain hole. They get paid a lot of money to do that. They use a lot of tools to do that. And if you're getting stuck in the scroll hole and you're getting distracted away from the presence of your life, you're getting sucked into their plan. You're not being intentional. You have how many years left? Like you got to go after this call and go, how many years do I have left? How many months is that? How many weeks is that? And am I going to live this life on autopilot, getting distracted by these machines that are paid to distract me? Am I going to live this life getting told exactly what I can and can't do? Or am I going to get trapped into the system with the first response of, I can't afford to jump on a plane and go to Croatia. I can't afford to do this. I can't, like Nick said, I don't want to get my kid vaccinated, but I have to because I want the childcare and support payment. Like that's what we're talking about here. But we have to, it's not just like, oh, I just got stuck. It's like, no, we have to be intentional about creating a life that we are not stuck in. So we don't have to do anything ever that is completely against our highest values. And that has to have clarity. It has to have a plan. There's work involved. We have to have, like, oh my gosh, I've got to set up another trust. I've got to do this. I've got to set up another bank account and all this admin and blah, 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 and emails. And it's boring as batshit. But you know what? It just has to be done. So
Yeah.
we've got to learn what has to be done, and we've got to be intentional every step of the way.
And look, it's like one of the reasons I had to accept with my e-bike, Jen, it was actually a really good lesson on all of this, was because for me, I liked the old lock. It was very easy, convenient. I could just get it. It was very quick. The new lock is more involved. I've actually got to take more time. I've got to put things together. Even my new e-bike with a more advanced battery, I've got to lock it more. It probably takes me about a minute from beginning to end to get it, to lock it, to do all that, where previously it was like a 20-second thing. And I thought, you know what? This is part of the fact of having a decent e-bike and choosing to ride it in here. And I think one of the things subconsciously that puts people off having more structures and that is more that. Well, believe you me, I can tell you now, 16 years ago, what saved me from going bankrupt when I made one very bad decision in business was I was so well structured that when inevitably they came after me, I was able to literally start again, continue everything on and get back on track, and have the tax others pillage my funds.
The truth is,
hard work, yeah.
Well, the truth is, it's just inconvenient, isn't it, Warren? It's inconvenient, and we do whatever we can to avoid the inconveniences. That's just our human nature, and so.
I think as well, so just to wrap up, there's two words that are coming to me with that. One is intentionality, for sure. Yeah. The second one is urgency, but I don't want to say it as in urgency, fear-based urgency. Urgency is in how soon do you want to be sovereign? Like that's what we do, right? At Women to Wealth, at Global Wealth Club, it's like, how do we create and build more sovereign women in our world? Because I know when there's more sovereign women, the world is just better. The world is so much better. So I don't mean urgency because of fear. I just mean urgency. And here's a question that always gives me urgency. I say this to myself most days, or when I've realized I've wasted energy and time on stuff that doesn't matter, is, Nicole, every single day that goes by, your time gets more valuable. Why? Because every single day that goes by, I get less and less time. That's a fact. Every single day, it's like that time is just, it's less and less and less. And if it's getting less and less and less, then it means the value of it is getting more and more and more. So we've got to figure this stuff out. If there's anything else that you guys want to share, please do. Otherwise, I want to share with everyone who's on the call is the support pathway that we have come together, Global Wealth Club and Women to Wealth, to give you the guardrails, right? So that you can create them and you can stay on course. I said to the guys yesterday, and just let me know in the comment section if you agree with this. I said, my gut feel and what I really believe is that women, everyone, but obviously we do a lot of work with women. Women need an environment and a space that can truly hold them steady in a world that's chaotic. We all need that, right? We can all go off very quickly. How do we create this space and this environment that just holds us steady, that stabilizes us, that we learn how to stabilize ourselves in a world that's not going to shut up, that's not going to stop, trying to harvest our attention, that's not going to stop distracting us. Like, we have to get intentional around where we put ourselves, what positions we put ourselves in. So let me I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to show you what we've created, which is the Sovereign Wealth Pathway. And it's only available from these calls that we're doing every single month. This isn't publicly available because I'll show you what we're sharing with you.
Can I have a good more screen?
Just make sure you mute yourself, please. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can see this okay. Awesome. Very cool. So, one sec. Just going to work my screen here because I can't see it. Okay. So this is the Sovereign Wealth Pathway. So a lot of the stuff that you guys have shared in here, I know this is what we teach in the Unbound Blueprint. It's the education and the support that you give throughout your programs as well, Warren. So this includes the Unbound Blueprint. Now, I know that there's some women on the call who are part of the Unbound Blueprint. You've done this course. Drop one word or a sentence, or go nuts. I don't know. Just share with us what the Unbound Blueprint is for you, what it's done for you, if you think it's valuable. I'd love to hear, because this blueprint, we created it because Jen and I were like, man, there is just such a gap between people screaming and shouting and talking about freedom, but then truly living it in the practical kind of way, in the way of, hey, I'm going to get on the plane and leave the country, in the way of, hey, I don't need to use the government funding, in the way of, awesome, I've got multiple income sources to tap into, have options, I've got buffer. It was like, how do we help women practically set up these things? So it is a blueprint for inner financial and physical sovereignty. We don't want one without the other. They all work so beautifully together. The blueprints for each of them, it's about dismantling unhelpful thinking. You have it, I guarantee it. It's about deciding exactly what you want. And I think one of the big messages from this call, and always what we talk about in Women to Wealth, is how can you know what to say yes to? How can you know what to say no to? How can you even create your standards and make your decisions if you don't know where you're going? If you don't know what you want, like decision is a skill, decision making. It really is. But most of us are reaction. We're making decisions from reaction, not from this is where I'm going. We need to stop outsourcing our authority, and the blueprint shows you how to earn, move, and live without relying on all centralization, without relying on one boss, one income, one currency, the government, one bank account. All of those things are really risky. We're not saying don't participate in them in some way. We're not saying don't have them there, but we are going to show you what platforms and what steps to set up outside of those things. And that's all in the Unbound Blueprint. This one is actually lifetime access. So you pay once, you access it. Don't skip it. Like, follow it step by step. And the first one being inner sovereignty, it's deep work, but just follow it step by step as we'll give you in the blueprint. Then there is Ignite included in this. Warren, I might ask you just to speak to Ignite. Obviously, I've written down there what's included, but if you want to speak to Ignite and also the free one-to-one wealth check that we're offering with this bundle. So that's what's not publicly available. It's only available from these calls that we're doing. because we've partnered with Global Wealth Club. So it's a one-to-one wealth check, and that's really about a personalized review for you, because all of our circumstances are different and all of them matter. But can you just speak to those two, Warren? If I've got you.
You have, yes. It's just I can't see any people's pictures anymore, but I'm hearing it. So yes, correct.
Can you share just a little bit about the Ignite program and then the one-to-one call? Who is it with? Why is it powerful?
Okay, so basically they serve two different purposes. So what I like with the Unbound Blueprint, it's very women-focused. It's like what I call the starter. The Ignite is very much about helping you learn financial kind of practicalities, but in a non-overwhelming way. And I think one of the things I've noticed with women is that a lot of the financial planning industry was very much originally designed in a way for men in a very male kind of way, very budget, very linear. So what the Ignite program tries to do is to bring in the best of the financial planning wisdom. So you learn the basics about how do you basically manage your finances? Like, what do you do with your super? Like, how do you make sure you get the benefits of, a balanced, stable portfolio for cash, silver, to operate within the system or the matrix, but at the same time in a way where you don't feel like you're now constrained or whatever else. So it's basically designed to teach financial in a holistic way. Like, we cover the balanced portfolio, we cover the basics of, how to build a stable wealth platform. We do regular masterclasses and get together with people where you actually, like, for example, in March, we're meeting up actually in Coolangatta for a bit of a half day or whole day event to meet members and teach on some of the new ways to make income with AI with myself, Trent Chapman, and some others. So it's designed to really it's more designed to teach you the practicalities of wealth, the practicalities of structuring, why you need it. And then the one-on-one is that it's all well and good to come to webinars and to listen to stuff and follow videos, but most people, from my experience, myself included, ultimately want to talk to someone and say, look, unless you're a very rare person who can go ahead and do it all yourself and work it out, you want that one-on-one guidance. Like, how do I actually work, how does this apply to me? Like, what video should I start with, or what process should I start? There's so many things I feel I need to do and I feel overwhelmed. So it's more designed to help you find your structuring, your purpose, all that kind of stuff. So it's designed to put some meat on the bones. Like, what structures do you need to take right now? What action steps do you need today? And it's different for each person. Like, some of you may already be well ahead, and all you really need to focus on is what kind of structures you need. Some of you need to go back to bare basics, like, how do I, put my finances in place? Others might be, I've actually got all my right structures, but should I maybe look at creating my own foundation, or look at going offshore? Or for some people, you may have properties which are at risk and you run a business and you're badly structured and paying too much taxes. So the one-on-one's designed to look at what you're doing and really keep it simple, like we did today. I mean, we could have discussed 50 topics today, but we go, no, let's just keep it simple. So the wealth check's designed to give you that one-on-one overview to work out what you've got to do next. And we deliberately make it a really good deal so we can kind of, introduce you to what we do, give you the support, and you walk away from that wealth check, or purpose and structure check, as Trent now calls it, with a clear sense of what you're trying to achieve. Exactly what we said today, intentionality. Help you refine your intention, number one, and then number two, put meat to the bones. So your intention has a practical plan to implement over the next 3 to 12 months. Does that make sense, Nicole?
Love that. That is awesome. Thank you for just drilling down on that a little bit. So I'm going to pop it up here so it's super clear for all of you on the call and listening to the replay. So what you'll see here is a Sovereign Pathway bundle that we have. So this is really the Unbound Blueprint Ignite program. And with that, you actually access the one-to-one wealth check for free through the Sovereign Pathway, which is awesome, which is $707 in itself. Jen, do you mind? Yeah, perfect. Jen's just popped the link in the comment section. So click on that, save it, so you'll have access to it. And then
Nick, well, I just wanted to quickly jump in and say, before I hand back to you, that I know that some of this for our girly brains just sounds boring as batshit and really overwhelming. And it's like, oh my gosh, like it's just like, it's not what we want to dive into, right? And it's not your fault that we never learned this at school, because they don't teach it at school. But it is your fault if you stay being non-sovereign. It is your choice to stay being dependent on a partner or a government or an employer or a whatever, because the learning is there, the education is there for you. So don't do the girly thing. I know what we girls do, and we kind of want to run away from this stuff because it doesn't feel like fun for us. And Warren makes it fun. Truly, working with Warren, he's he just says funny things sometimes. He makes it easy to understand, and he's so approachable. And all of his videos, it's good. You can just work through it at your own time. And working with Nick and I, doing our courses, fun too. Like it's a community, as Nick said. So just don't run away for that reason. And so I just wanted to add that in, Nick.
Yep, love that. And make this sovereign pathway, the intention is make this your 12-month plan. This is where you set the foundations. This is what you learn. This is what you lean into. This is how you create and execute on a plan. Like, dial it in, make this 12 months. If you are a go-getter, get it done in 6. Like, it does not have to take forever. It really doesn't. Often the way we think makes everything harder. We think it's going to be harder than what it is. We think about the problems and put them in the way. It doesn't have to take forever, but it just does take some dedicated time. And we often say, commit to a season to become sovereign. You decide when that season is. But like I said, my gosh, every day that goes by, less, the value goes up, up, up. So we have to decide when we're going to learn this stuff. And so for us, it was like, how do we just put in a simple pathway for women? So we know the stuff that we give is foundational. We know we're going to help you think differently. We know we're going to give you the practical steps to really put the foundations to create a sovereign life, because you can't just talk about freedom. Like, we say this all the time. So many women, I see them post and they're coaches, but then they're saying they're leftover shoes online. They're giving their leftovers of money to causes. They're not creating true abundance. They're not really free in their life. They're not living freely. They're just talking about freedom. And so we need to not just go, okay, there it is. What are the systems, the steps, and the platform that deliver lived freedom in our life? That's the Unbound Blueprint. And then we need Warren, not for just, the cowboy and the pole dancing and the fun that he brings, because he will.
Come on. That's the most important.
We need the experts, right? We need people who really have the knowledge that can guide us. So we said, let's make this the plan for women. It's simplified and it's a pathway for you. But like I said, it doesn't have to take forever. Make it a 12-month plan or get it done in 6 months. This is it. Now, I will say, for those of you who have already done the Unbound Blueprint, that's okay. We're not going to make you pay twice. Reach out to us at Women to Wealth, and we'll just send you a link directly to access Ignite and the one-to-one wealth check as well. Amazing. I'm going to wrap it up there, because we have gone over time just with our little tech issues at the start, but appreciate you all so much. I know all three of us are so thankful for the communities that we have and what we get to do with everyone in this community. So thank you for jumping on, being present, and we will see you on next month's Wealth Reset, if not before, in the programs.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Great to see you all.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bobby.